Good day, everyone. I am Vayame T. Gamarcha. Today, I will discuss to you is all about information literacy. So before we start, we have here our learning competencies. First, learning competencies define information needs, locate, assess, organize, and communicates information. Second, demonstrate ethical use of information. That is our learning competencies. First, we discuss here is what is information literacy. So, information literacy is the ability to recognize when information is needed and to locate, evaluate effective use and communicate information in its various platforms. Your information literacy provides the key to academic achievement and lifelong learning. So that is the learning information literacy. Here are the five components of information literacy. The information literate students can identify, find, evaluate, apply, and acknowledge information. First, we have here the identify. Identify is the information letter students can identify the nature and extent of information needed. Here's some example in the academic examples. Differentiate between primary, secondary, and tertiary sources for information. Reading background information on the topic before researching. And we have the real world example. Devising a search strategy to find information on buying a new home. Deciding to search for the most current information that is available in the medical procedure. And I have more here. Identifying the difference between the published court decisions and article about the court case. Next, let's go to find. Find, a literate student can find the needed information effectively and efficiently. Here's some your academic example. Locating a book on the library shows by its code name, choosing keywords and phrases to use in a library catalog search. In the real world examples, we have here searching public archive for information on a local history, accessing a government website for the local crime statistic. And I have here another example. Refining search, refining a search or requesting genealogical records through interlibrary loans, or locating a website written by the credible botanist to help identify the wildflower. Next, we have here evaluate. Your information or the information literate student can be evaluate information and its source critically. Here's some of the academic examples. First is summarizing the main idea in an article book, reviewing multiple points of views to construct opinion. And of course, in the real world example, we have here searching the claim made in a political ad on television, checking a website for the currently of updates, scrutinizing a Wikipedia article for accuracy. These are the real examples. That is, evaluate. Next, let's go to your apply. Apply. The information literate students can apply information effectively to accomplish the specific purpose. Here are some academic example. Paraphrasing an expert essay to support a position in a persuasive search using images. Search. Using your images, we have also using the images from that database to prepare a group PowerPoint presentation. We have here also real-world example, referencing expert to support a point during a discussion. That is the apply. We have here the last. It is the acknowledge. The information literate student can acknowledge source of information and ethical, legal, and socio-economic issues surrounding information. Here are our academic examples. First, citing an information source in a text of a research paper. Second, we have utilizing fair use of copyright and guidance. We as a teacher, we need to consider that. And of course, understanding what constituent plagiarism. And of course, creating a work citing page or biography. And next, the real world example. Giving attributes to a reposted image on a website. Attributes or credits. Obtaining permission before copying a news story to a blog. That's very important. And of course, I have here another. Downloading legally purchased music. Recognizing limits and protection of free speech and censorship on television. Those are the five components of the information literacy. So what is information? We will move on to this. Information is a broad term that can be cover data, knowledge derived from the study, experience, or instruction, sign, or symbol. Here is the reference. First, we have here the topology of information. First is the factual versus analytical. If it is factual information, remember, it is based on the evidence, finding provided by the reliable sources. Example of this is your book, encyclopedias, and periodical and technical reports by the agency and institution. Next is the analytical information. If it is analytical, it is the analysis or interpretation of the facts by an individual, usually an expert on the subject. For example of this is the future article, commentators, or reviews. Next, we have here the second, subjective versus objective. If it is subjective information, when you can consult an expert or the opinions such as those found in the editorial section in the newspaper or the weblog entries or prophetic writers. That is subjective. It is found in our newspaper in the editorial section. If it is objective information, it is unbiased or does not lead to you to judge the information in a certain way. Example of this is the specific papers or news report. We have here the current and the historical. So, the current information is refer na sa how, up the date, and how the recent information. May date, what the day happened, time, or the recent information that you have. May ara man siya, it includes the publication date of the source of the materials, and of course the usual basis for currency, date, time, and when or where this is the place. So the historical naman is there is the historical or the old information that is very helpful by providing our insights and comparison event. Let's go now to the fourth. It is a scholarly versus popular. Scholarly source as the peer review, expert written articles or book focus on its deep research featuring technical language and extensive biographies. So the example of scholarly sources is the academic journals. This is the example is Journal of Applied Psychology and the University Press book. Next is the popular sources, are the written by the journalists for a general audience to inform, or entertain, usually lacking formal citation. So, the example of popular sources are the magazine and a newspaper. Next is the primary versus secondary versus tertiary. So, primary sources are the first-hand original evidence created at the time of an event. The example of this is the diaries, your diaries, the letters, photograph, raw research data, interviews, and of course the creative works. The example of the creative works are novel and poem. Next, secondary source. The secondary source are analyze, interpret, or restate those primary materials. So the example of the secondary sources are your journal articles, books, review, documentation, documentaries, your biographies, and academic histories. Next is the tertiary sources is the summarize, index, or compile primary and secondary sources. They are also providing an overview or finding aid. So the example of the tertiary sources are the dictionaries, almanac, biographies, and of course the textbook. Here are some the references of my discussion today. So thank you for listening and watching. I hope you learn. Goodbye.